On this episode of Horror Furs, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We're going to be talking about something other than a movie. We're going to be talking about a short story. More specifically, a creepypasta. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a short horror story that's usually posted on the internet and then gained some notoriety by being copy and pasted. Creepypastas are a little bit notorious for not always being the highest level of literature out there. You know, not everything can be quite like, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or, I don't know, some other stuff. I think creepypastas are probably better compared to, let's say, a really trashy B horror movie. Some creepypasta stories are fantastic. They're amazing. Candle Cove, is off the top of my head, is a fantastic one. But yeah, most of them are trash, and I love it. I just love me some good old trash. I grew up watching trauma movies and crappy shot-on-video horror movies. I'm just attracted to trash. I don't know. So let's talk about the story that I've selected to review today. It's called The Real Chuck E. Cheese. You're probably wondering, what does that title even mean? Well, let's get into it. This is the sentence that opens the story. Have you ever thought there was something the creators of Chuck E. Cheese were hiding from us all? And if you're a sane person, you're probably thinking, I can't say I have. It's just a restaurant franchise. Can't imagine there's anything too dark and sinister going on behind the scenes. I don't know, maybe they're using some questionable ingredients for their food. Like maybe it's not as natural as they want us to think. I don't really think Chuck E. Cheese puts a lot of emphasis on the standards of their food, actually. It's more about the arcade and the animatronics. That's assuming that there's a Chuck E. Cheese left open. I think they've pretty much all gone bankrupt by this point. We'll see. To be continued. But anyway, the story basically consists of this kid who's like maybe 5 or 6. The kid's never given a name, but it's read through their perspective. So the kid's going to a Chuck E. Cheese for the first time, super excited, arcade games, fun stuff, playing whack-a-mole, just having the time of his life or whatever. While he's playing whack-a-mole, he starts to hear some sort of a weird noise coming from the back room. He walks on over, kind of puts his ear up to the door, he's trying to eavesdrop a little bit. He hears somebody saying something about like test number 15 on mutated rat results. Some weird stuff that you probably would not expect to hear at a Chuck E. Cheese. So he's listening on this, and somebody ends up opening the door. He falls in, he's grabbed, and then I guess they knock him out somehow. They don't specify how. Just a mystery. So then the kid ends up waking up in an interrogation room where he's being interrogated by, I guess it's like one of the a scientist in a lab coat. I guess there's just a team of scientists in the back of a Chuck E. Cheese with a whole lab. If Chuck E. Cheese needed like a lab for anything they're doing, they wouldn't put it in the actual restaurant. It would be a separate location. But okay, so the kid's being interrogated by some sort of a scientist, and he's like saying this stuff like, you know. And the kid's just like, I'm like 6 years old, I'm drugged, I have no idea what's going on. That's what he's thinking, at least. What he's actually doing is he's panicking because a grown man is yelling at him about nonsense, basically. But then we start getting a banging at the door. And I guess we're led to believe that whatever this mutated rat is that they're talking about, it's starting to barge into the room. So that ends up causing enough of a distraction that the kid can get away, and he climbs into an air vent and crawls back out to the main restaurant area, I guess. Really weird. I don't know like how easy it is to get into an air vent and like pull the... They make it sound like, you know, just luckily the screws were really loose, so that was very convenient. Okay, and then this little kid just knows how to, I guess, travel through the air vent and get back to his mother. But before that happens, you know, you're hearing all these noises of this mutated rat creature barging in and tearing people to shreds. And this is one thing I do kind of like, is that they don't really describe the creature at all. It's just kind of left ambiguous, like what actually is this? Like you kind of can just use your imagination to fill in the blanks. I ended up creating my own artistic rendition of what I thought maybe this thing was. I'll put it right there. Good. There we go. You can just indulge in that, I guess. So yeah, there's just a total bloodbath going on, and then the kid ends up getting out of the air vent. He gets back to his mother, who's completely ignorant of all the shenanigans that have been going on. She can tell that he's a little worried, but she's just like, whatever, let's go home, I guess. That's basically the gist of the story. It's a really weird one. I feel like in terms of creepypastas, this one really just throws logic out the window. They usually try to maybe make a little more sense. This one is just really bizarre to think that there would be a lab in the back of a Chuck E. Cheese where customers are coming to eat food and let their kids play games. Meanwhile, there's this mutated lab rat creature being experimented on. Really weird, but I guess the idea is that they're trying to like replace the costumed mascot character with a real Chuck E. Cheese, basically meaning they're trying to make a half human, half rat creature that I guess would look kind of cute and be friendly and be able to interact with the kids, which just seems like a horrible idea. I would just get the guy in the costume. I don't think anybody was complaining about that too much. So yeah, the story really doesn't make any sense, but it is kind of charming in the sense that it reminded me of kind of like a Goosebumps episode, where, I don't know, there's a lot of like Goosebumps stories that are, it's almost like they don't make any sense. They're very bizarre and out there, but if you're a kid, and sometimes when you're a kid, your view of reality is a little skewed. You kind of imagine that you don't know what kind of weird stuff is going on behind closed doors. So maybe there is a lab in the actual restaurant where they're making a mutant rat. I don't know. It's kind of how I view this story. It has what I would call just kid logic. I feel like Rugrats actually uses kid logic a lot, like when they kind of have their weird pretend fantasy adventures. The logic doesn't make sense as an adult would view it, but to kids it makes perfect sense. Whatever, this is a really dumb story, but I love it. With that said, let's get in. That was louder than I wanted it to be. Let's get into the rating. So first we're going to talk about the gore. They kind of describe a little bit of the rat tearing people to shreds, but they don't really get too into it. It's gruesome enough, we'll do a 5 out of 10. Creeps, hear me out on this one. I'm going to do a 5 out of 10 as well, which is higher than a stupid story like this deserves, but I just feel like this would have creeped me out if I heard this as a little kid. As an adult, it's kind of laughable, but it kind of like brings me back to little kid mindset a bit. It creeps out my inner child, I guess. But overall, it's not that creepy, so that's why it's only 5 out of 10. Thrills is a 3 out of 10. It could have probably built up suspense a little bit better if it like maybe the kid's crawling through the air vent and then the monster reaches in there and it's trying to get him. I feel like there's things like that we didn't really take full advantage of. Honestly, this whole story kind of feels like somebody had an idea that was kind of there, but they didn't give it enough time to develop before they started typing it out, and then maybe they didn't do any revisions afterwards. Just a side note, if you're going to write a short story, or if you're going to write anything, write it and then give yourself some time before you publish it anywhere, just so you can go back and make some changes. Sometimes that helps a lot. Next is Monster. Even though they don't really describe the monster, it planted enough of a seed in my head about what it was. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 just because it's a cool concept. And overall, I'll do an 8 out of 10. I can't give it a full 10 out of 10. Like, it's not like an amazing story, but it is a lot of fun. So that's how I feel about that. I was doing a story rating on these before. I think I'm just going to scrap that. Too many things to rate. Yeah. It's kind of fun to take a look at a creepypasta. If you want to recommend some more that kind of fit the anthropomorphic animal monster territory, I know there's more out there. We can always do that. And don't forget to like and comment. You can find me on the Twitters. Is that somewhere over there? I'm sitting here way too long trying to think of a way to like close this video out, and it's just not happening.